Welcome to DotLife, Dorchester's hyperlocal podcast with news, commentary, and analysis. We are back in Dorchester.
Welcome back.
What a place to be for a Dorchester podcast.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Did you miss it?
I did.
Yeah, you were on the road. Where'd you go
actually
again?
going back on the road tomorrow. But yeah, I was in Milwaukee and then New York City. Yep.
That's right.
How about you?
I was in Orlando, Florida with
Ooh.
4 children and my wife and
Mickey.
Mickey
Nice.
and the whole crew. Yeah, it was great. We had a great time. It was even a little bit less humid than it was here for a couple of days out there down in Florida. So still swampy,
Yeah.
but it's cooled off nicely here. So
Yeah.
happy to be back.
Yeah. It was nice and warm in Milwaukee, but no humidity. So that was nice. My tech guy took me to a fencing tournament.
Cool.
Yeah. It was good.
Did he win?
He coached.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It was
More
nice.
to come on that. We should do an episode on the whole fencing culture that's going on here.
He just shook his head no.
Okay.
I noticed that you were so excited about our first story that you actually you jumped on it while you were on vacation, which is the Greenway Trail opening, the connector. Yeah,
I did. Although I didn't know it was open until I read the Reporter when we got back from Florida. So
I like when you read your paper.
it's sometimes
nice.
a good idea for me to read our own newspaper, and I did so this week too. Yeah, that was the big news. Like July 4th, Independence Day surprise was the DCR opened the Greenway on July 3rd without really any announcement. Just
No fanfare, no fireworks.
none. And we just started getting text messages, or Seth Daniel did,
Yeah.
from neighbors like, "Hey, guess what? I just crossed the bridge."
Do you think that's because Seth has the Force?
Yeah, I saw his Jedi Knight certificate. I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go up in the attic and see what I got up there. But yeah, Seth got several messages quickly on last Thursday morning saying, "Hey, it's open." And I think our first show we were talking about, when is this thing going to open?
And it was delayed, right? It was supposed to be like May or something, April?
It was delayed, and there wasn't really a clear answer to why.
Okay.
But I think we've figured out the mystery now, and folks who've been on, have you been on yet?
No.
Okay, you're
I
going to
haven't
check
been
it
in
out.
Dorchester.
That's right. All right. Well, you'll be out there soon
Yeah.
enough. We wrote it on July 4th, and you'll notice part of the boardwalk, the kind of the cantilevered bridge that's there by Marcy Boulevard.
We should say this is between Tinian and...
Yeah, we're talking about
Yeah.
the new section of the Neponset Greenway that's a little under a mile between Tinian Beach and Marcy Boulevard that now allows you to take a safe passage instead of, taking your life in your hands on Victory Road or Marcy Boulevard or wherever. You now have like a dedicated path. And there's a couple of crossings, but they're safe. And we tested that out. So this has been in the works for many, many years, actually. Like I was going back digging through the crates the last few days on the Neponset Greenway saga, and this really is going back 4 decades
Wow.
or more, actually, of people talking about, hey, why don't we cut through here? But really over the last 5 years, this project kind of came to fruition through planning and funding and legislative approvals, etc. But it's just a mile between Tinian Beach and Marcy.
But that connects now. You can go seamlessly from where?
Yeah, you can go seamlessly from Hyde Park,
Okay.
roughly like Mattapan, Hyde Park area, Paul's Bridge, the Martini Shell for folks who are in the Hyde Park. I know we have a huge Hyde Park listener pool, so thank you.
Shout
Those
out
of you on
Esteban and Luke.
Yeah, everyone on Truman Parkway who's watching us right now. They know what we're talking about. But you can get on a bike, and there's a dedicated path along Truman Parkway, connects to Mattapan Square, and then to me that's where the Greenway really takes off, is when
Okay.
you get to Mattapan Square, and it cuts through. There's a 1.5 mile section that goes from Mattapan Square to Central Avenue, that opened in 2017 with a beautiful bridge called the Harvest Bridge.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
That's really cool. This is the latest and the greatest segment, I think, so far, which is this stretch between Tinian and Marcy. And the coolest element of it is right by the gas tank, where you can now go, kind of on a shortcut through the backside of the gas tank. And then you come out to this vista on the harbor with this raised boardwalk. People have probably been wondering what this thing is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a part of the expressway. It's not a new road. It's the new section of the Greenway with raised boardwalk and a couple of carve outs, like bump outs, where you can sit on a bench or sit on your bike
cool.
and take in the harbor views. The gas tank is a prominent feature of it, which, for some reason this keeps popping up. It's really a special, new addition.
And then you can continue on to where, though? You can go all...
Well, you can continue on Marcy Boulevard. So there's a little stretch there that's tricky still. And there's been, we'll talk a little bit about this. There's been some commentary online about, well, this isn't great. Not to take away from the achievement of getting this open, but there are some segments of Marcy Boulevard that are still problematic for anybody, bike or just walking.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Beads Bridge specifically, the drawbridge, which it's pretty narrow, like the sidewalk there, which is in rough shape and the concrete is crumbling. It's a tight passageway. Like you got to probably get off your bike to be safe and like walk through that stretch.
Okay.
But yes, you can continue on to the Boston Harbor Walk into Castle Island. All told, it's about 8.2 miles from Hyde Park to where this latest extension takes you to the Greenway, to Marcy Boulevard. So that's a pretty cool stretch. And, a lot of this goes back now to, I mentioned, to like the 1970s of master planning and state land takings. To take a quick step back, the Neponset River, for a lot of my lifetime, the first half of it anyways, was really walled off from the public. It was either fenced off or literally there would be buildings there, industrial uses, things like paper mills, auto repair shops, junkyards. There was a drive-in movie theater. There were just uses there that maybe once in a while, if you worked there or you were a customer, you would be there, but otherwise you couldn't get access to it.
Okay.
And it was polluted in addition to that. So really this is the culmination in many ways of like 50 years worth of advocacy, public officials stepping up to get monies behind these projects. But really the community saying, we want to use this river. We want to be able to walk along it. We want to be able to ride our bikes here. And it's also the reuse of old rail lines. So the core of the Neponset Greenway project back in the early 90s, mid to late 90s actually, was the repurpose of this old commercial rail line that much of it ran parallel to the trolley tracks, the Mattapan trolley. And it was freight cars. Like you couldn't. That was all fenced off. So because it was a commercial rail. Like it wasn't like the trolley where you can walk next to it or you can cross at grade at certain stops. Like this was barbed wired, like fenced off.
Okay.
And you'd have to actually go up and over it on little bridges that were created, like Butler Street Station, not far from my home. Like there used to be one of these old school, like you'd see them in New York, like something out of the Warriors movie or something, like a cage basically that you crossed over to get across the tracks.
And I'm sure they were always nice and clean.
Oh, they were so sketch. Like take your life in your hands time. It was a different time. Like we talked about this on the show. Like it was gritty and not so great. Those have all come down. They came down in the 80s. And then in the 90s, that's when the push came to like, well, let's repurpose this old right of way. And that's the core of what the Greenway was. What it's grown into is all these extra segments. The Neponset 2 Park, the Pope John Paul II Park, where you have these loops in there for bike riding as well, or for walking. And the segment we talked about in Mattapan and Milton that came online in 2017. So it's a real achievement because people couldn't use these resources before, or if you did, you were trespassing.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but this has been a huge achievement of like restoration and reclamation of a public asset that generations of people didn't even know was there.
That's crazy. The way that rivers were treated in cities back in the 50s and 60s is kind of hard to understand.
Yeah, and you talk about like from the federal level, EPA and the Clean Waters Act and these landmark pieces of legislation that, frankly, right now we're benefiting from, right? But that are also kind of getting ridiculed or
they'll likely
revised.
be thrown out, right?
Yeah. Fortunately for us at this moment, a lot of those decades and decades of work are coming to fruition. There's more elements that could come online, like the Marcy Boulevard rehabilitation project. I know that you and Seth Daniels spoke a lot about that last week, so I won't go.
We did, and I want to do more on that, but
yeah, we won't go
probably not
chapter
here.
and verse
Yeah.
here, but
Yeah.
you know, there's ways that the Morrissey connection can get a lot
Yeah.
safer, a lot more, you know,
Scenic, even, right?
yeah, it could be really
Yeah.
nice. So,
Yeah.
but we wrote it on last Friday. It was great to just be out and just blue biked it, grabbed a blue bike at Butler
Nice.
Street Station, which I highly recommend. Not a big blue bike person traditionally, but my son is, and he showed me how to do it, and it was great.
Did Linda Dorsina Forry go?
I don't think she's made her maiden voyage on the
Because
on the new
she's been
section.
pretty instrumental in making this happen.
She was a big part of.
Maybe not this segment, but yeah.
Dan Hunt, to his credit, Dan Hunt has been a big advocate for this. And,
Okay.
I'd call him every few weeks, like, hey, what's going on with this? And he was always on top of it. Dan Hunt he was a state rep from the 13th Suffolk District.
Yep.
By the way, for those keeping score, Dan succeeded Marty Walsh as a state rep in that district.
Okay.
And so he kind of picked up the baton in really working on this. Senator Collins as well. Obviously, both Governor Baker and Governor Healy had a role here in this particular segment. And the DCR is the key agency. But I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out a couple of the local folks who were really instrumental. People like Paul Nutting, who's a Savin Hill resident, who really kind of pushed hard for this over many years. Maria Lyons in Port Norfolk. People who are part of the Neponset River Greenway Council. And the going way back, Boston Natural Areas Network, Neponset River Greenway Watershed Association, excuse me. You know, a lot of advocacy behind this, and people like calling their state rep, calling their state senator, calling the governor's office, like, hey, this is important to us. We
Getting
want
funding
this
secured.
done.
Yeah.
And cumulatively, you're talking tens of millions of dollars over a couple of, like, 2 decades so far.
Wow.
So considerable, but when you think of the public benefits that come, I think it's a great investment.
It's multi-use, right? Walk, bike?
Walk, bike, yeah, no motorized anything on
Okay.
there.
No scooters?
I don't think you're supposed to have any motorized.
Okay.
You will see, of course, like a police cruiser once in a while
Yeah.
on there, and that's state police jurisdiction. But they sometimes we've seen Milton and Boston police out there as well. But I don't think you're supposed to have any motorized private
Okay.
vehicles. No.
We did scoot a lot in Milwaukee.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have the rentals there.
Are those like blue bikes where you get them at the kiosk?
Yeah,
or
the
whatever?
limes. Yeah, they
Cool.
were great. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen a lot of motorized scooters on.
In Boston.
Well, I've seen a lot of those, but not on the Greenway.
Yeah.
And I think it's really better if it's not. Like a lot of dog walking. It's
Yeah.
and people are scooting. People commute on this Greenway
Okay.
from wherever, South Shore into the city, and you can tell like these people they're booking it. Like they're moving pretty fast. You got to be aware of what you're doing on there.
Okay. Cool. This is awesome. What great news to start out the week.
Get out there and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, it's perfect season for it.
Let's move on to some development news down in Ashmont. So we're sticking kind of in the same area down at Ashmont Station region. This is where used to be the Ashmont Grill, and now currently is the Mix, and soon to be something else.
Yeah, soon to be a 6-story building with 34 units of housing, and then there is restaurant space on the ground level, but not likely to be the Mix in the future from what we've reported so far.
Now, this is the person who's redeveloping this actually owns this building, right? This is Mark Little? Okay.
Mark Little and his company bought this property about 3 or 4 years ago now. And his intent all along has been to redevelop it. But in the meantime, he's been leasing the building, which obviously, as you mentioned, was Ashmont Grill, to another restaurant owner. It's actually 3 men who own it, own the business. They're leasing the space. And one of them, Rufus Falk, we spoke to this week. And Rufus said to us, he said, look, the Mix was always intended to be somewhat of a temporary use here. There's more of a pop-up theme. They did not dump a lot of money into like a total rent. They didn't do a gut reno of the Ashmont Grill, for instance. They sort of did a facelift.
Sorry, Rufus is one of the restaurant owners or one of the building owners?
He's one of the restaurant owners,
Oh,
of the mix.
okay.
There's 3 partners.
Yeah. Because they own something else, a seafood.
Lobster Kings?
Lobster Kings.
Yeah,
that's right.
Lobster
Okay.
Kings is kind of the food brand behind it.
Okay.
And
And they
then-
were trialing this mix idea, right?
Right. I think that they wanted to kind of do a proof of concept here.
Okay.
That their concept being they wanted to they called it bringing up to, downtown to the neighborhood.
Okay.
And sort of a club vibe to it. It's obviously got like a lot of entertainment components to it, somewhat of a nightclub vibe some
Yeah.
days there. But the food is important to it as well with
Yep.
the Lobster Kings branding. But they said right up front that this is more of a pop-up, and that eventually they knew that this building was going to be earmarked really for a larger new building that will have residential. So
I think Abacus, Mark, was basically like, I need to do something with this building while it goes through development, zoning, and permitting and stuff
financing.
like that. Right?
I think he had other projects going on.
Yeah.
I believe he's doing another project in Dorchester right now,
Okay.
up by the
the
Boys and Girls Club.
That's right. And I think he's doing. Isn't he doing the one where the church used to be in the triangle on Talbot?
I think that's a different developer.
Okay.
I think that's James Baker who's
Oh,
doing
you're
that
right.
one.
Yep,
but
you're right.
but Abacus is doing things across the city,
Okay.
and I think he also has something in Lower Mills
That could be
going on right now.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably just sequencing projects for him.
Mhm.
But now he just filed this proposal with the Boston Planning Department on July 3rd. So this news broke on the day that the Greenway opened too. It's a busy news day for Seth with me out of town as well. But this Peabody Square, which is where we're talking, this is 555 Talbot Ave, across from the fire station. Everybody who lives in that neighborhood knows what I'm talking about. It's just going to be a bigger building. It's 6 stories,
Mhm.
and it's kind of it'll be a dense use right in that site. Ashmont Hill neighbors behind, have been accustomed to going to the Ashmont Grill or the Mix now for about 25 years or so.
Yeah.
It'll be a difference. And what Rufus Falk of the Mix told us this week is that they don't expect to come back into this building because it's going to take a while to, it'll be demolished, the current building.
Yep.
And in that interim time, they need to find a new home.
Right.
And I think what they'll do, from what Rufus said, was they're hoping to find new space in Dorchester in the
good.
same zip code if possible.
Yeah.
And they're also looking in Roxbury, 02119. So
For a second location?
possibly,
Or? Oh,
yeah.
that's
He
cool.
left the door open that it
Good.
could be a second location.
Yeah.
I think the Mix has been a popular destination. It's drawn an audience from across the city in a way that Ashmont Grill did too, in its
Mhm.
own way. Ashmont Grill would have people coming from Milton as well and from suburban communities. The Mix was really an urban crowd, and it's black-owned restaurant group. The vibe in there, the music, the
Much more clubby.
the
Yeah.
karaoke,
Yeah.
which good stuff. That we really need that in the
Yeah,
neighborhood,
yeah.
and it filled a niche and a void that was missing.
Yeah.
So there's regret about that closing down. We're hoping that they can find a comparable space, maybe something even bigger.
Yeah.
And that a Roxbury location makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah.
So I personally hope that Rufus and his team find something, over the next few months that would be a place they can transition to before this building construction project starts. But we have a ways to go here. Like this is just entering the city zoning, and planning department review. So I don't think we're going to see any real activity there probably until next year.
So they actually presented, this is Rhodey, right? They presented at one of the Civic Association meetings recently, and their design is really thoughtful. The way that they're positioning it into that area, the way that they think about foot traffic and community more than just what are we doing on this parcel, which I think is really, and sustainable building materials, things like that.
Right, you're talking about Road A Architects, which
Yeah.
is another Dorchester-based company. They're actually in the South End, but the two principals live in Dot, and great guys. Pretty much everything that they've done, that I've seen, in the Dorchester context has been a home run.
Yeah.
So I agree. I like the look of this building. I think, 6 stories, fits in with what we've seen with the Treadmark building, with the Caruth building down the block. So,
And it's right by the Ashmont Station, so
Right.
It doesn't need a ton of parking or anything like that.
it doesn't have any parking.
Right.
So, and I know some people
Yeah.
hate that, but it's what city planners want them to do
Yeah.
too. So,
Right.
in fairness to some of the developers who are like, well, that's what we were told to
Right.
do.
Right.
And so this is, you can read more about it in the Reporter this week, obviously, but there will be a restaurant there.
Good.
I want to be clear. There's a ground level retail.
Sushi.
There you go. Sushi is coming up a lot in this show. It's
Food comes up a lot in the show,
Somebody
Bill.
one of your other guests though said that he has a sushi spot in the neighborhood. Was it Joel Richard
Yeah.
who was talking about?
Yeah.
as a
I don't
sushi-
believe Joel.
I haven't seen it. I mean, not since the hot pot place closed.
I went to
Van
the
Shabu.
I went to the conveyor belt one.
Yeah, what'd you think? Yeah.
I'm not that technical, man. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, you need to bring teenagers or smaller children
Yeah.
to
Somebody
figure
to
out
run
that
it
stuff.
for me.
That's
yeah.
what I do anyways.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of the conveyor belt situation, to be
No.
honest. So,
Yeah. We won't get into that.
okay.
So that's one last point on that. The mixed catered Dorchfest. They had a tent there,
Mhm.
and it was great. People
Big
loved
hit.
it. Yeah.
Did they bring lobster?
They didn't because they were worried about it not holding up well over time. So they brought chicken, and
Okay.
the chicken was really good.
Yeah, I've heard excellent things. Everybody raves about the food at the mix. So, wish these guys the best of luck, as
Yeah.
well as Mark Little and his
Yeah.
team. People investing in Dorchester, we love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a new restaurant. Let's bring it on.
Let's go.
So we're gonna transition out of your editorial from this week,
Mm-hmm.
which is
sounds-
a lot less fun.
Sounds like I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you
We
doing?
are kind of in trouble. That's the
Yeah.
point of the editorial, and kind of a lot of people know about this. The Boston Globe's been doing some good coverage of this. It's coming to a head, and we're talking about the court system
Yeah.
and Dorchester Court, but elsewhere too, Boston Municipal.
I mean,
all
this
across
is
the
a
state.
problem across the country that public defenders are not. They're not paid well, and they're over burdened. Their caseloads are just way too high. But it sounds like Boston is particularly
It's
bad.
particularly problematic in Massachusetts because they get $65 an hour.
That's crazy.
In that caseload, which I get it, to a lot of people, lay people, including me, that sounds like a lot of money. In the context of attorneys, and specifically public, court-appointed attorneys, it's like half of what people are getting in neighboring states, like New Hampshire,
other
Maine.
court-appointed attorneys,
Right.
not other.
Public defenders.
Right.
They're getting, minimum $100. Some
Yeah.
of them are getting $140 in New York,
Right.
Rhode Island, other states.
And then you look at private attorneys, and they're making 3 times that an hour,
Right.
4 times that an hour. So you're making it so that the best and the brightest lawyers can't be public defenders
Right. And to be clear, these are private attorneys technically,
Okay.
who elect to serve, not pro bono because they
Right.
are getting paid, but
Right.
they're working
They're
at much
taking on these
reduced
cases,
costs,
yeah.
right? Much reduced pay. And so, unfortunately, the state over many years now has failed to give them cost of living adjustment. $65 has been the rate for many years now.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, you got to bump us up.
Right.
And it hasn't happened. It didn't happen in this most recent budget. Surprisingly, even given this this work stoppage, which is essentially what we're going to talk about now, back in May, this group of private attorneys said, well, we're just not going to take any more cases if you're not going to adjust the pay. We have a big workload already. You've already assigned us a ton of things. We can't take on any more.
So luckily, everyone in Dorchester and Boston said, okay, we just won't commit crimes.
I wish that was the way it worked. And, if that happened, then nobody would be
Right.
having a work stoppage here. Unfortunately, crime goes on, the beat goes on, but people are getting housed in, whether it's lockup or they're getting, sent down to South Bay or wherever.
Yeah.
If they do commit a crime and it's serious enough that they're being detained for it, then some of these folks have been in prison waiting for a court, an attorney for weeks. And finally, it came to a head with the Supreme Judicial Court the week before July 4th. A ruling came down that said, well, that's unconstitutional.
Right.
If they don't see a lawyer within 7 days, you got to let them go.
7 days.
7 days. And many of these folks, there was a backlog of over 1,000 people by then. The clock started ticking like in May. So this past Monday, the first group of prisoners were excused essentially or released.
Yeah.
Just a trickle to start with, but more to come for sure if this doesn't get resolved. So this editorial is highlighting that listen, for those of us in the city and everywhere, and a lot of communities that are impacted by crime, and it doesn't make sense. It is unconstitutional, and they're innocent till proven guilty. They should be getting
a timely
legal counsel.
Yeah, right.
And at the same time, what's this going to mean for our communities?
Right.
And we know the critical mass of arrests that are made. We report them every week on firearms charges,
Robberies.
Unfortunately shootings, larcenies, even shoplifting, which is a serious, you go into the drugstores now, the CVS's and the Walgreens, everything's behind glass and locked up because shoplifting has become a bigger problem.
Yeah.
There's actually sting operations that BPD is starting to conduct to try to just crack down on that a little bit, because that's the biggest growth we've seen in crime in a city that has seen a reduction in violent crime for sure, but these quality of life crimes have gone up.
Yeah.
And many of these alleged offenders are indigent and can't afford an attorney and won't be able to afford one.
Right.
And until this crisis, which we're now in, I think it's fair to say we are in a crisis mode when prisoners are getting released rather than arraigned.
Yeah.
It's going to be a problem. And I think, it's incumbent upon state, elected officials and the governor and other people who have, kind of the purse strings at their hands. They just did I think, $61 billion budget, and we couldn't find some way to address this work stoppage and get people, representation.
So they're paid through the state.
Yes.
The budget just passed.
I know.
Well, how are they going to?
$60.9 billion budget. Now,
there is a $100 million pool for resources.
That's so the governor can, if she needs to, come back in and cut some things out of the budget because the feds are going crazy and chopping everything, right? So, look, the state's in a bind. I get it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about
this is not something you
public
can cut.
safety, criminal justice, adjudication of court cases at every level.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. So I hope that this gets addressed, but
how can it though? Logistically, if the budget's already passed, where do they find this
money?
They
can do a supplemental.
Okay.
They can do a supplemental budget. And yes, I don't want anybody to the Beacon Hill to have to, work through their summer vacation or anything, God forbid.
Yeah.
But look, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
There's other people getting arrested now who will, that 7-day clock is starting for them.
Yep.
And these attorneys have said, look, we're just not going to take any. It's essentially a work stoppage at this point. So hopefully this level of attention that it's getting, the Globe did some excellent reporting, as I mentioned, about what's going on daily at the courtrooms right now, Boston Municipal Court, Dorchester Court. It's something we got to keep an eye on.
Is this a call your representative situation?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, hey, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
I mean, it got real this week when, up for the last month or so, it was, this is an inconvenience, it's an aggravation. Unless you're one of the prisoners who's been detained for a couple of weeks,
right.
That's more than
right.
an imposition. But for the public at large, I think it's now going to come into focus that, no, this is a serious problem. Everybody wants to, and sometimes I think people do inflate the public safety risk that we have in Boston. I mean, sometimes, and especially in the political season, that can happen. This is a real problem. There's no quarreling about that.
Right. All right. Well, last story.
On that upbeat note, right?
I don't know if I've told you this, but I have a plot in my backyard where I grow peas.
Really? No, you never mentioned that.
Garden peas are my favorite food. And right now is when garden peas are ripe. So every morning I let my dog out and I go eat peas out of my garden.
snap peas, like the real crispy ones. So those are good.
No, the like you shell them and eat the pea out of the shell. Yeah, they're excellent.
I think you may be transitioning to the farmer's market story on page 1.
So once those run out, I'm going to need a new source of
I was
peas.
going to say, why don't you just bring them down to the corner and sell them yourself?
No, I'm eating them. They're mine.
Oh, okay. Well, if you run out, and it sounds like you're going to at this rate,
I'm going to.
The farmers markets, it's farmers market season in the city starting this week officially. With the big one that we've highlighted is the Greater Ashmont Main Streets now runs the farmers market right outside Ashmont Station.
Dorchester Plaza, yep.
Dorchester Plaza, thank you. Vince Dorchester, God rest him. That's the site. It's going to be every Friday starting this Friday throughout the summer. And I think it's like
2 to 7 or something, 3 to 7, something like that. Yeah.
But it's not just a farmer's market. It's got all kinds of vendors and artisans selling things.
It's got vibes. It's got music.
It's got music. Yeah, they're talking about like a pop-up cafe situation going on. And that's great. But it's not the only one. So we focused on 4 different ones this week. The Urban Farming Institute, which is in Mattapan on Norfolk. The old Clark Fowler Epstein farm, if I got that right, is on Fridays, has a Fresh Food Fridays farm. They distinguish themselves by being an actual farm.
They're a stand, not a market.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they don't have vendors come in. They sell their own food that they grow right on the site, which is
cool.
awesome. And that's a terrific take. They also offer all the same benefits that the traditional farmers markets do with SNAP and other discounted prices. So that one is underway already. So go check that out.
All right.
And then the Codman Square one, which is on Saturdays, starts, I think it's next weekend.
Where is that?
It's right in front of the Second Church in Codman Square. Yeah. And so that one's a traditional one. And then Mattapan is already underway too. Mattapan Square, that's also on Saturdays. That's up and running. So there's plenty of places to check out locally. There's a couple of others too. There's one in Milton right over the river. I believe that's on Thursdays. And I believe House Health also still runs one on Dorchester Ave.
Do you have a go-to?
I'd be partial to the Greater Ashmont one. It's the closest one for me. But I think the Urban Farming Institute one is awesome because it's also this, like 18th century farm that's been restored and
it's a trustee's property, isn't it?
It was the Historic Boston Inc. Did the work to restore it, and now they've essentially sold it to the Urban Farming Institute, which is the one that the group that runs it and manages it, and they do a terrific job, like programming there too. They have jazz afternoon, evenings, like all kinds of cool programming. If you haven't been to the farm, the Clark Fowler Epstein farm, check it out. It's really cool. It was a nightmare for a long time. It was like a decrepit, like the spooky house you wouldn't go to on Halloween. You'd skip the whole block. It was bad news, overgrown, everything. It's such a beautiful property the way they've restored it with all the farm use all around it.
Nice. What else is going on this week? What are you doing?
We have a lot. We have a loaded schedule on family events and things, but we are going to probably stop by the night market, which is coming up Saturday. We talked about it last show, or 2 shows ago now, but the
Boston Little Saigon night market.
Little Saigon night market is that's going to be a big deal because it's going to shut down Dorchester Ave. So just from logistical purposes, but on with the fun quotient, it's going to be a good take because there's lots of food vendors. There's also live music. And a beer garden and all kinds of stuff for...
it's Saturday night, right? The 13th?
It's the 12th, I think.
Okay.
So it's a Saturday, the 12th.
Saturday, yeah.
And it's also like an afternoon into nighttime event.
Nice.
It's going to be like thousands and thousands of people come out for it. So
be
aware.
Will Ballet be there with Banh Mi?
There is... I didn't see Ballet on the list, but there's definitely Banh Mi vendors there for sure. And... like Cocoa Leaf, which is a terrific cafe in Fields Corner, is one of the vendors. Le Madeleine, which is a Quincy Vietnamese restaurant. They're really good.
Nice.
And I know that because my daughter's named Madeline, so we have to go there once in a while. Dorchester family that owns that too.
Cool. Anything else that you're looking forward to next week from a news standpoint?
What else is coming up? Seth, since I was away, I'm catching up still,
Yeah.
but Seth Daniel always has like a whole bunch of articles on tap. I know he's writing more about that shoplifting issue.
Okay.
And he's working on a couple of those kind of policy things that a little bit deeper dive, and it needs a deeper dive on what's going on with the budget and
Yeah.
like what local projects are in jeopardy because of what's going on federally. And we still have to unpack a lot. And then John Fitzgerald just put out some new information about his proposals for trying to deal with the mass and cast situation.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so we're going to be doing a more in-depth story on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you then.